Good afternoon, everybody. How are you? Welcome to Ask the Professional Marketing Panel. My name is Carrie Willigan. I'm the Director of Career Services for the School of Business. See some familiar faces, so we're glad you're back. We have a wonderful marketing panel here, and we have a wonderful faculty who is going to moderate that panel, Professor Kulik. Some of you may know him. I do ask that if you have a cell phone with you, that you make sure it's on silent to give the panelists the respect that they deserve. And please ask them questions. They are not here to talk to us. They are here to talk to you. So I'm going to turn it over to Professor Kulik.
Already? Okay, let's turn my phone off here. Okay, my phone's off. Okay, you can hear me this way. I don't like usually to use a microphone, but they are recording some of this, so I have to do that. For those of you who don't know, I am in the marketing area. I have been at Mason I started as adjunct instructor in 2001, and I've been here full time since then. Teach a variety of courses. I have taught in the foundations course area, both in Korea and over here, and I still basically spend most of my time in the marketing area. I'm pleased to do this today. This is part of what we want to do. Make sure that you guys are prepared. I've spoken to some of you. There's a good handful of people who are marketing majors. The rest of them are split in other places. We've got one or two accounting. We've got several ISOM, which is our information systems, operation management. And then we've got a ton of people from management. Who are all the management people again? Management people? Okay. We can still convert you. That's what we want to do at some point, okay, on that stuff. I'm going to ask the panelists to introduce themselves and tell you just basically their name and where they work, or something like that, and one thing about them that's fantastic. Nick? Yeah.
My name is Nick DePalma. I'm a designer. Just in case it's recording. My name is Nick DePalma. I'm a designer. My career has taken me, I started in educational media, worked my way through public broadcasting and news television, ended up in some strange way in user experience design and user interaction with web and mobile products, software applications. Marketing has always been a significant part of the visual communication strategy of what I do. And a few years ago, this is the fascinating part, by the way.
Okay.
A few years ago, I made this really interesting discovery of an interest in science communications and decided how cool would it be to just work with scientists all day long, never be the smartest one in the room, which is not a problem for me. And working with scientists and helping them communicate and share their science and research stories to build greater audiences and support and spread science literacy so we can all think a little more like scientists. So I started a company, an agency called Spacetime Labs, which is a creative agency for science.
Awesome.
Hi guys, I'm Monica Jansen. I have a cold, so you're going to hear me cough and hack, and you'll probably get to see me blow my nose, but I promise I won't get any of you sick, and I'm not going to touch anyone. My official title is Head Kick-Ass Copywriter and Strategist at my company, Jansen Communications. Really, I'm the CEO, but that's really boring and stupid, and who cares? So I go with the fun one. So Jansen Communications is a boutique marketing agency. We specialize in copywriting and social media marketing. So we create content for small to mid-sized companies, tell their stories, and then get it out there in front of the people who matter, their target market, to drive sales and revenue, because really that's what marketing is about at the end of the day. Something interesting about me, there's so many interesting things about me, but I guess, I don't know. I'd always prefer to be snowboarding in the winter. I really don't ever want to be working between mid-December through April. I would just rather be out on the snow, and I take a lot of time off, which my team knows about.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Nika Mendoza, and I am the Director of Sales and Marketing at the Embassy Suites by Hilton, Dulles Airport. So I have been with Hilton for 11 years. My major was accounting, but I started Hilton in accounting and saw that the salespeople have more fun and they made a little bit more money. And so I'm like, oh, that was interesting. So why not get into sales? But it's been a wonderful journey for me, and I'm excited to be here. One fascinating thing about me is that I'm a sports mom. So I love football, I love basketball, I love tennis. So I love a lot of sports. And, to be a female at a sports bar, they're like, ooh, you're cool. So I get brownie points for that. So I'm okay.
Hi, my name is Erica Spalding, and I'm Vice President of Corporate Communications and Marketing for Didlik Incorporated. It's a nonprofit based out of Manassas, and we create opportunities for people with disabilities. So part of my responsibility is internal communications through employee relations, public relations, and strategic marketing, and also marketing communications. Not until 3 years ago, when we purchased a UPS store. We are a franchise owner of UPS store 6656 down in Woodbridge. Come see us. And once we purchased that, that's really when our nonprofit got into marketing. So I had been with the company for 9 years, and over the last 2 years, I've been working to build a marketing department. So don't throw your books away, because at some point in time, you might need them again. I'm using actually one of them now. To help me educate a lot of people, and you will be educating a lot of people on what you do, because they will not understand what you do, and you'll be working to understand what they do. So I also oversee the operations of the UPS store, which was kind of cool, because now I get to be, so I'm in marketing, now I'm in management. That's exciting. And I've learned a lot from operations, because it's given me the opportunity to see it from the other side when you're in it and living it and getting those customers and really providing that great customer satisfaction and the sales and really working on cross-selling and upselling. And something fascinating about me, I am a hyper-organized person, and I love structure. I love project management. It's not fascinating to you all right now, but it's really exciting to me. So, but it is fascinating when you get to see it in action. And some of my creatives like it, and some of my creatives do not build that structure. So everybody has a reason to be here for sure. But with that, I'll pass it over to Amber.
Hi, I'm Amber Batchelor. I'm with the Greater Reston Chamber of Commerce, and my focus is membership development, and I also work with identifying new investors for the organization. We are a nonprofit organization, but our focus is to make sure that businesses and other nonprofits have the critical resources that they need in order to be successful. So I could talk all day about the Chamber, but don't want to bore you yet. We have a long program to get through. Something fascinating about me, I recently got certified in generational strategy. And that means helping different age groups work better together, whether it's in the community, whether it's in school, or it's in business. So I don't know if you've already heard stereotypes about your generation, but you will. So my goal is to break those stereotypes and get people talking so that you're included in the conversation, as opposed to a token person from your generation to speak for everyone in the room. So we're over that, right? Again, I'm Amber Batchelor. I look forward to talking to you.
Thanks. I want to split this up into a couple of different parts here. The first part, just talk a little bit about marketing education. The second about marketing careers. Okay, so just in terms of education stuff, anybody wants to take this, what do you wish you'd studied in school that you didn't?
What you wish you had studied?
Yeah, that you need now.
Go ahead, Amber.
So my major was business administration and international studies. Kind of made my own international business major at the university I went to. And I wish someone had told me, Amber, start your own business now. Like, why would you wait? And you meet so many people that have been in business for a long time. Like, oh, I wish I had known this. I wish I had started in college. If they had taught me how to run my own business in my university, I would be so far ahead of just where I am now, my ability to help other people. And also, if you're thinking about just building your own legacy, you'll be much further building your own wealth legacy.
For me, it's employee relations. At some point in time, you will probably be managing people, and then eventually you may be managing people who are managing people. And managing people can be very complicated, and then there are some significant rules around managing people, and I really wish I had spent more time learning that today.
Okay, let me just ask, how many of you guys out there plan to start your own business? Awesome. Okay. talk to her afterwards, okay? Get some information on that. Anybody else want to pick that up? Go ahead.
Yeah, one thing that I wish had been pushed, and I think this is really important for all business majors, psychology. A lot of marketing is about psychology, tapping into FOMO, the fear of missing out, to get people to buy. But there's psychology around colors, around numbers when it comes to pricing. It's freaking crazy. But also, we're human, and marketing is just really about making a connection with another human being. And so just understanding how people think and how they make decisions is really important. So honestly, I think all business majors need to have like a minor in psychology.
Okay. Yvonne, go ahead.
What I would have liked to see more of is to be informed of internships. I educate our young people and my son to do internships. If you're able to intern with a company that you're interested in working for, that gives you experience, and that's experience that you're going to receive prior to getting, graduating and moving on into the real world. So take advantage of that. Take advantage of being in your business clubs and joining those different career opportunities that you are given while you're here on campus. Take advantage of taking the lead and asking your professor or your dean for any opportunities outside of the campus. That's what you really need.
Go ahead. Yeah.
One thing I would add, because I agree that starting your own business would be an important thing, that understanding, and I wish I had known this, that you can be both agent and agency at the same time. Those of you who are interested in starting your own business, absolutely you should. For those who are interested in getting into the workforce and getting the experience through a company as an employee, absolutely you should. But you could also keep an LLC on the side for some of your other interests, do the work, so the things that you have to do, and then those other things that you really pie in the sky kind of idea of things that you want to do. So you can be both agent and agency at the same time. And then, when your full-time job gets in the way of that other thing that you really want to do, then you can go off and do that.
All right, let me follow up on that part, and just some of the things like Erica was saying, some of the other folks at the other end. How do you mix the creative and the numbers crunching and the other side of that stuff? We've got people here who express both. How do you mix those? Nick, I'm going to call on you to start that one.
It's kind of strange because sometimes, you don't want to get creative with the numbers. That's not a good thing. And it seems a little like it's oil and water, but it finds its mix in the right ways. For me, as a creative, as a designer, when I know that there's a certain budget limit that a client has, if I know that, there is just limited resources, that actually allows me to be more creative because I have to do more with less, or I don't have all the tools and all the assets and resources I need in order to design or create or develop. So I have to get really, really creative. So a lot of times those numbers help me. When I'm accounting for my own business, then obviously the very practical side sets in, and you have to, look hard at your books and, your accounting and where your revenue is coming from and how much profit do you make and how much do things cost to run your business and all of those things. So there's either a very marked distinction between those two operations, or one really does kind of balance and feed the other, I think, in a lot of ways.
Okay. Anybody else want that one?
So I'm going to answer this question really differently than Nick, because my team looks at a number that can be measured. That's our goal for our client. I don't know if I'm saying that too abstractly, but let's say a client wants to increase conversions on their website by from visitor just to lead by 15%. So we've got that number. We've got that 15%. Okay, here's what it is now. Now let's say it's like 10. They're getting 10 leads on their website now. Well, 10 times. I can't do math because, I'm a marketing person. So I'm just going to let you guys do the math in your head. But then we'll have a number that we want to get to, right? And so everything that we do to drive that lead conversion is always going to be pointing to the number. And are we getting to that number or are we not?
Okay. You want to go?
My focus is a little different too. I'm in hospitality, so we're more of heads and beds, right? So are you guys familiar of the term ROI or the acronym ROI? Return on investment, right? So that's our focus. Our focus is return on investment. So we have a budget and I have a goal to reach and meet every month and every quarter. So my focus is, if I'm working with my e-commerce team to do some marketing and advertising on Google or on the web, and I only have a $500 budget that I can use to do that. But internally on property, I can market and do some other non-cost-effective ways to reach my guests in-house as well. So I can do a client event, I can do a happy hour, I can do different things to not use any of the monies that I have in my budget that's going to my marketing on the web and Google, so you have to balance it. You have to know what's going to be more cost effective and what's going to give you more of a return on investment, and I can get a return on investment from both of those opportunities, the web and also on hand on property. So that's what we control.
Cool. Nope. Okay.
Will you ask the question again?
About this creative side and what you do, what's exciting about the creative side and how it fits all together.
So so a little bit about me. So I started in engineering when I came out of college. Didn't want to do it, but they hired me to go to engineering, and they were going to fly me and move me to Los Angeles. I'm like, let's do it. So engineering is all about numbers. I was in industrial engineering, so I had to tell people who had been doing something for 30 years that they were doing it for 30 years wrong based on the numbers. So I had to use the numbers in order to find a way to communicate with people and be extremely creative about how I presented the information. I'm sure at some point we'll probably talk about storytelling and how important that is. It's critically important. So regardless of what industry you're going to go in or what your major is now, listen to people as they talk. And some point they're going to quantify things, because when people have a challenge, they normally quantify it and identify that that's a pain point for them. So just listen. And then in order to help them figure out how to resolve that problem or challenge they share it with you, you're going to have to get extremely creative about how you're going to tell them how they can solve their problem. And I think for me, solving problems has really just transcended different industries, but definitely you're going to have to be creative in order to do that.
All right, let me ask a follow-up question on that one, Amber, and just see if we can do that. And that is, earlier I guess last month now, I was at a conference, and one of the Supreme Court justices was there, and he was talking about the importance of Shakespeare, and that he told undergraduates, don't take the law courses, take Shakespeare. And marketers got to be curious people. What are the kinds of curiosity kinds of things, the Shakespeare kinds of things? You were talking about storytelling, which is becoming a big area, but, what kind of stories, what kind of literature, what kind of fun stuff in terms of that to keep you motivated and not just curious, but learning? Sorry.
I think it was a follow-up for you,
sure.
Amber, and then
sure.
I can.
Absolutely.
Happy to.
So Shakespeare is one of the most articulate human beings I have ever read. And at first I was like, I am not getting this. There's no way this all connects together. But when you slow down and you really appreciate the words on the page and the story that he's trying to draw you into, extremely articulate. And he really gets a point across, and he paints a picture. It makes you feel like you're in the room or you're watching from above. And so for me, not appreciating when you're in the moment. So a lot of times you'll talk to people that are already starting their career and like, oh, I really wish I had paid attention to X. Like, just don't be that person, right? It's really easy. Just don't be that person. Don't say, oh, hindsight's 20/20. Well, when you are in class right now, think about the ways that you can practically apply everything that you're learning. And a lot of it is going to be that the book knowledge or the novels that you're reading or these really classic writers. So try to find one key takeaway from every book that you read or every chapter that you read that you can apply after you've graduated. That might sound a little general right now, but if you take just a few minutes to think about it, you'll be able to have some key takeaways.
Yeah, and I definitely would say always be learning. You know, they say always be selling, always be learning. For example, and I'm a huge Audible fan, so I'm listening in the car on my way to work. I'm reading a book about advocacy right now. It is a 16-hour book that is essentially all about persuasion and communication. But from a marketing perspective, it's fantastic. You all are in the persuasion business, and you really want to learn how to build those skills because you're going to be selling your ideas, whether you're in management, accounting, and that's what Amber's talking about, is really being able to persuade people with the information you have available to them. Really looking at sales techniques and building those skills, bringing your human to work and how to be more empathetic and compassionate when you're communicating with people. I'm very left brain. It's very challenging for me to be more empathetic in my writing, but that's something I'm working on. And so always looking at what am I failing at, what can I be better at, and then working on those skills. And I think that will really take you very far. So,
how many of you guys have actually read Shakespeare recently? Okay. Anybody read Shakespeare other than high school English? Okay. Just asking. I mean, I don't either, so we'll go from there. But okay. Any other?
Shakespeare's great.
Okay.
So I know I look super young, but I have a 12-year-old and a 16-year-old. And, for you guys and for my kids, YouTube is their MTV. I grew up on MTV. They grew up on YouTube. I get inspiration, actually, from watching some of the YouTubers that they follow. I love Casey Neistat. He's a wonderful storyteller. I don't know the name of the company or group or whatever, but they're Viners, and their Vines are freaking hilarious. And, I mean, they're taking these stories and compressing them into, like, this much space, but they're fully fleshed out stories. I also like great movies. They're all wonderfully told stories, no matter what the movie's about, no matter what the genre is. So I get inspiration from other mediums, YouTube, the big screen, even, like Modern Family, even what's on this small screen. So they're just phenomenal storytellers. Modern Family is so funny. There's always another zinger coming, and if you're not paying attention, you miss it, and everyone else is laughing. You're like, what? So, that's kind of where I learn a lot of stuff. Plus, it's fun.
So I'm obviously in science communication. I got really hooked in science fiction from a very young age. And science fiction was kind of my doorway to science. And it's just been in the back of my head for I don't know how many years in my entire career. And here I finally found my spot in it. So, and most of you may never, ever go to Jet Propulsion Laboratory in California. But if you end up as an employee there and you walk through the doors, and I believe I get this right, there's a big sign that says, "Dare Mighty Things." When you walk in, that you're a scientist, you're an engineer, you have these incredible responsibilities in research, but don't forget to think about the bold idea of what possibly could be. Don't let your expertise be the enemy of your innovation, right? To fall safely and comfortably back into the things that you know. Constantly challenge yourselves, aim really high, not to learn all of the ways that your ideas are correct, but instead to discover all of the reasons why they're wrong. Because it's in that change, it's that little delta that discovers some pretty mighty things. So for me, it's science. What's interesting, though, a lot of the scientists that I talk to and deal with every day, it's amazing how many of them, when I ask them what inspired them to get into science, it's what I need to know. At least half of them, over 50%, say the movie Contact alone was inspirational for them in getting involved in science, because it was the story of the mix of both science and faith, and it's just where you find that contrast, where you can dare mighty things, because that's the stuff that inspires you, while the day-to-day stuff kind of seems to make you tired, almost beat you down. But Go for the mighty things.
How many of you guys have seen that movie?
If you haven't seen the movie Contact, you should watch that movie. It's really it's a very powerful movie, and it was written by Carl Sagan and Ann Druyan back in the 70s, and they had the film script before they had the book. And in order to help sell the film script, someone said, Carl, you should really write the book first, and got that out to millions of people. And as popular as it was, that's what really made that movie happen, even though the script was written years before the book was.
How about science fiction? You guys read science fiction? One?
Watch science fiction? Is anybody a fan of science fiction in movies or anything else, TV shows? Right on. Cool.
Are you guys reading your homework or what? You doing all that stuff? I want to switch a little bit from this part to talk a little bit more about careers in marketing. And so to do that, I'm going to ask you guys, what do you think marketers do? Yeah. Connects products with customers. Okay, I got it.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Sorry. That's all right.
Connects products with customers. Who else? Aaliyah? I'll come back to you. Anybody else? What do marketers do? All right, you guys are going to be marketing majors. What do you think?
They have to be able to communicate with people and learn how to, I guess, adapt to changing climates in terms of like people's desires and people's wants and needs.
Okay. Communicating wants and needs. Anybody else? Other marketing majors here? Yeah.
I'm not a marketing major, but from my experiences, I know that in marketing, you want to associate your product with feelings of positivity in order to influence clientele. And through that, that's where you were talking about psychology. Through that psychological basis, you get the clients interested and invested in your product.
Okay, thanks. Anybody else want to try this? Yeah.
What I think is, I'm also my marketing major, but what I think is they communicate with the customers through social media, advertisement, sales, or mostly social media. At least that's what I think.
All right, anybody else? Anybody into data analytics or anything? Oh, we got one here.
I would say something along the lines of building a relationship with customers. So connecting your company in a way with customers that they feel like it's personal or that they enjoy the cause or something along those lines.
Okay, anybody else? All right. What do you want to tell them? Are they right?
Yes. 100%.
Nay. Yeah. Go ahead. So in terms of this stuff, in terms of careers and that kind of stuff, as you guys have been through this whole area and stuff, and you've done various marketing jobs and stuff, let's put it this way, what's the most interesting marketing job that you've never had? Because you guys have never had marketing jobs either, right? Okay.
All right, so when I was a very young pup and interviewing for marketing jobs, I was living in Boston at the time, didn't go to school there, moved there after college. It's very hard to meet people in Boston, FYI, if you didn't grow up there and go to school there. But I was interviewing at this really big ad agency, and it was like one of those offices where you walked in and you're like, oh my God, like it looked like an ad agency. And I'm like, I want this job. I don't even remember what the job was for, what I would be doing, but I didn't get the job. And I was devastated because I'm like, I want to work in that really cool office in downtown Boston. So that's the one marketing job I never got. But you know what? I also think that it's for a reason. I didn't get that job for a reason. I can't remember what I ended up doing. I think I ended up working for a startup, actually, a tech startup. And this was pre-dot-com days. It survived the dot-com crash in 2000, and all due to the CEO. I know I'm going off on a tangent, but the CEO was really smart because everyone in like 98, 99 is like, let's issue an IPO, let's get the IPO out there. And Dan Slavin, I still remember his name, was like, nope, it's not time to do it yet. So anyway, so I ended up at a tech startup, so that worked out for me.
For me, it's easy. The job I wanted didn't exist or I couldn't find it, so I created it. That was
excellent.
Yeah.
Still trying.
One of the reasons I own my own business, too.
So I didn't mention I graduated from George Mason, and actually I took Professor Kulik's nonprofit marketing class. I wanted to be a fundraiser. Okay, I'm one of those people who did the long-term degree. I was one of those people who went to school later, the older adults they talk about at Mason. That was me. So, and I'm talking about that because I had a career beforehand. So I was working in event planning, actually for George Mason, the Mason Enterprise Center, and doing federal procurement events. Okay, and people said, oh, you should be, I know, right? And people were like, oh, you should be in wedding planning. No. No one has planned a federal procurement event since they were 5. No one is stressed. No mother-in-law is stressed about what their daughter's going to wear at a federal procurement event, okay? So, but if you go into event planning, you really have to decide what client you want to have, really think about your client. But really my dream job was fundraising. I built my entire career, my work at Mason as much as possible around nonprofit projects. So every class I had, because I knew I wanted to go into nonprofit and I wanted to do fundraising, all my side projects that I had through my classes, I really tried to make them about a nonprofit or nonprofit work. I got a degree in business because nonprofits need to run like a business, not like a charity, and be. It is a business that you're running. So anyhow, that was my dream job. And then I graduated, as I said, in 2007. And I don't know where you all were at in 2007, but the market tanked dramatically. And I went to work for D.R. Horton. I walked in, and they had fired 95 people in their office, and I was one of 7. And the marketing coordinator job was one of the most important jobs at that time, so that we could build the business and really attract customers in one of the most difficult housing markets in my lifetime. So, but it was hard to go into fundraising because people were not ready to give their money away because they could barely keep their homes. So you really have to be dynamic in your career choices because the market can just pull the rug right under all of your well-laid plans. So that's why having dynamic learning is important. Sorry, I feel like I'm
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, I want to ask another question of the panel, and then I'm going to turn to you guys. So start thinking of the questions that you want to ask, okay? What I want to ask the panel, and this is something I think everybody should weigh in on, that is when you're looking at resumes, what is it that you're really interested in terms of a marketing person?
Oh, can I just, I'm going to jump in.
Okay, do that so you can use some water.
If you have HTML, CSS, put it on your resume because the computer will not let me see your resume. If it is a required skill, you have to put it on there, or I will never get to see you no matter how amazing you are. Okay, that's my basic tip because I get phone calls all the time. I'm a great candidate. Yes, but you haven't put the skills on there, even when you have them. So, sorry.
Okay.
I look for results. I want to see quantifiable stuff. So if you have been able to grow ABC companies' social media following by 40% in 6 months, I want to know that. I want to see numbers because that's what our clients are looking for, and that's what we have to deliver to them. And I don't have the time or the wherewithal to teach you how to do it.
For me, I actually, I hired a sales coordinator not too long ago, and she's a college student as well. And I was looking at someone who can be creative and do flyers and have event planning and coordinating and servicing our meetings and things like that. So if you're able to list, like Erica said, list your experiences and your skills on your resume, that's very, very important. And when you're doing marketing, you want to highlight the PowerPoints, the publisher, different websites that you've used to be creative in making and designing different things that you've been involved in.
And I would add, you really want to get the point across of what that opportunity that you already had would be like if you weren't there. So what impact did you leave? How would people have seen you? If you weren't there, who would have done it? If no one, that's great. So that means that is one of your key accomplishments. So we just went through a hiring process at our organization. And for me, if you have your signature achievements and your key accomplishments that are listed out and bullet pointed, it's easier to read a resume, especially when you're going through over 100 from Indeed.com or Glassdoor or wherever. So think about that. And to the point about highlighting like PowerPoint flyers and different creations, after you've gotten past that first stage, after you've gotten past Erica's really cool automated system that everybody uses to filter out resumes, bring your samples with you to your in-person interview, or if they reach out to you and say, hey, we'd like to move you forward, email them samples. And if you're like, well, I've never really created anything for anyone, like, who cares? Like, you have classes all the time and you have opportunities to practice. So keep a portfolio and create it now if you haven't already.
And I would say, to Monica's point, the quantitative is not always there in the work you'll be doing. If you get involved in certain projects, I know, like, from a straight marketing perspective, we've got our quantitative we're looking for. So you may need to be keeping track of the impact that you have on the organization because it isn't already built in. And in the moment when you're doing the work, and it's a lot to keep track of. And then suddenly when you go to work on your resume, then you don't have that quantitative, but you know you've made a lot of impact. So just have that in the back of your mind.
I don't hire employees necessarily, at least not at this point yet. But we have a lot of freelancers that we work with and a lot of partners that we develop business ideas with too, in order to serve science and research. So while results matter, don't let anyone tell you they don't, because they absolutely do. But when I look at hiring on a freelancer or working with a partner, I want to see the process, the journey, where they started, what their learning process was through that. How did they arrive at that really fantastic looking mobile app or website? What was the discovery path from position 0 all the way to, the finished product that ends up online or somewhere? Because in design, it's research first. Design is research. We don't focus as much on the deliverables. I know our clients do, and it's really, really important. But for a designer, the deliverable is almost the last thing we think about, really. I mean, there's some impact as to where it's going to go and what format or file format or how that's being used. Of course, that's important early on. But the deliverable mindset is nowhere near as valuable as all of the research along the way. So we look at freelancers who have gone through that learning process and what did they figure out and how did they do it, and asking the right questions and all of that early learning stuff, right?
Okay. I could ask another question too, but I want to give you guys a chance now. All of you guys who are in management and finance and accounting and ISOM and stuff, you're going to work with marketing people, and they all want marketing people to help them, and marketing people need this stuff. So you guys should be thinking about questions about marketing and stuff. If anybody got one right now? Yeah. Let me mic you, okay? You all right with that?
So I know Amber was talking about in-person interviews a little bit, and I was just curious what kind of things you look for in an in-person interview.
Great question. What's your name? Okay, great. So, Jack, you definitely want a few key things. So eye contact is huge. You want to already know how to describe yourself when you get into an interview, either sit down and say, tell me about yourself. Already know what that's going to look like. And that can be as simple as, I think they used to do like an objective at the beginning of a resume. Now people do like an executive summary. It only needs to be 2 or 3 lines. Don't go into where you grew up. And like, some people may care about that, but like, some people just don't have time for it. So say key things that you want to talk about. You also want to, if you have a panel interview, if someone asks you a specific question, look at me and answer it. Don't look at everybody else, because you're going to get really dizzy. That's like just a basic one. But also, too, it helps you look more polished and stable in your response. And make sure that you have questions already prepared for them. Do research on the website. You want to go to the about the company. You want to know a little bit about the people that you're interviewing with. Technology is great because everyone gets their information online. So go to LinkedIn and look at their profile. Know something professional and something personal about them so you can mention it. Know the mission and vision. You don't need to articulate it because they probably can't either, but know something about it that will be helpful to mention, like, oh yeah, and by the way, I know that this is something that's important to me. I also know it's important to you because community engagement is key, or something like that. So those are a few. I could go on forever. I used to do pageants, so I love interviews, so chat with me after, Jack.
Okay, Jack, you happy with that? Or more? Go ahead. Okay. Who else has a question out there? Yeah.
First of all, my name is Nelsie, and thank you for coming here and paneling for us and giving us your information and experience as a marketing or being a business owner. So one of my questions is going back to you. What were your skills again? You went through really fast, so I wasn't able to write it down.
Oh, sorry. You mean the skills that I got my degree in marketing. I have a BS in marketing. I also have a minor in IT with a focus on web development that I got from George Mason. And I also have gotten further in my coding skills. So that's actually how I started. Once I graduated, I was a marketing coordinator for a year, but then I became a web-based communications manager and built websites. And we built an intranet. I have a background with user testing and also usability. And then I've gotten involved now in operations and gotten a big focus on accounting and finance. So
amazing, thank you. And what were your skills that you recommended on a resume?
If the job posting says it requires a specific skill and you have that skill, just make sure you list that skill.
Okay.
So it's not so much about saying I'm telling you all to get HTML. If you're still doing 101, you're taking a basic HTML, I think. Are you guys still doing that class? I can't remember the intelligence class. Okay, anyhow. All right, I'm assuming you all know HTML because you're hip and young, and I'm not, and I have it, and you should too. But yeah, it's more about that.
Okay, thank you.
Of course, thank you.
And one more question, I'm sorry. I want your, from everyone, opinions of should I add my social media platform on my resume? Because I know there's some employers are like iffy about it, but some others are not. I'm more specifically going on like social media.
It would depend on the position that you're applying for, right? If you're applying for like a media coordinator assistant and you want to highlight that you're doing fantastic things on your social media platform, then that's what you should do. But if you're applying for just maybe a coordinator position or like a front desk at a hotel, that's not something that they're looking for, and that's not catering to that position, right?
I want to go back to the skill building. How many of you are going to be staying in this area after you graduate? Show of hands. Yeah, so one of the things I found trying once I graduated to find jobs in this market was there are very few advertising firms. They're very small, they're boutique, so they're very hard to get into. So back to the advertising. So if your dream is to be in advertising, you may need to look at other markets to be in that. And then also there's a huge federal contracting piece. My job includes a lot of communications. So there's a piece of my job now where, although I got my marketing degree in 2007, I'm building a marketing department now. And so it's taken a long time, so I had a chance for a year to do marketing, and now I'm getting back into that. And in a small way, so it's incremental. And why I'm saying that is because the communications school and the business school are separated here, but I use a lot of the communications school's tools and understanding public relations, reputation management, and crisis communications. We've had to deal with that a lot in the last year. So those are things that as a marketer and as you move up in the company and depending on how much the scope of what you're covering, and at least in my experience, you may have skills you need to build that you weren't prepared for, and really looking at those different pieces. So, but it's different. Each of us have very, very different roles, and which is exciting because it really shows you the diversity of what can come out of a marketing degree or a management degree or any of the degrees in the school. Because I know accountants who get into marketing, and other people who really find their passion in it.
So two things. So the first would be about the social media on your resume. I think anything you put on your resume should ask, why is this important? So for me, what I want to focus on my LinkedIn profile was workforce development and generational strategy. That's it. So that way people know I can go to Amber's page and find out what's new with workforce development, or for what's going on with millennials, or for tips to make sure that I'm hiring the right people. So that's what I want to be known for on LinkedIn. So I might share that with someone because it's important to them. But if it's something specific, like, did you answer that question about social media? Yes. So that Erica said, or Okay, sorry. So yeah, you just want to make sure if it is media related, have that, but make sure that it's polished and it's professional and it's executed with purpose. Because if not, like, they don't need to know it, and they probably can find you anyway if it's public, because a lot of people are searching you online before they even review your resume. And then the second one, Jack, I want to go back to your question about the interview, just because this is so important. Make sure that you're dressed appropriately. People are like, oh, I know how to dress, I got this. But asking of a professor or a dean, how does my suit look? And I said suit because you need a suit for an interview. And for women, wearing 3 pieces, a jacket. I took my jacket off, so excuse me. But jacket, blouse, a skirt, or slacks, or a dress with a blazer. Have those things in your wardrobe. You guys have a really cool Goodwill that's not too far from here. I know, because I shop there. So just make sure that you have the pieces that you need for your interview, and you can wear the same outfit to every interview you go to, because guess what? They weren't at the last interview and they didn't see you. But practice the sit-down test to make sure that you're comfortable when you're sitting down, and that your wardrobe isn't going to impact your confidence level at your interview.
Okay, got more questions from the floor here? If not, I got one, but let me start that while they're thinking there, and that is, a lot of the students complain about, you look at a job requirement, it says they want experience, but you can't get experience unless you got the job. Yeah. Okay, how do you answer that dilemma for the students?
Oh, yeah, okay. So I did a lot of volunteer work. I've been on a few nonprofit boards, small nonprofit boards. So, for example, a horse sanctuary. And that allowed me to utilize my marketing skills pro bono to this nonprofit in order to help them raise money. And then for some of the social media marketing we've been able to do for $75,000 or $75,000 for $75, $25, you can reach a really large audience for low cost. And so it gives you an opportunity to play around with Facebook advertising. And I find a lot of people say, oh, I know how to use Facebook, and they've never been up in that right-hand corner and gone to create an ad, manage ads. And so that's really where the meat of Facebook is from a marketing perspective. And that's just one small example, but go to your church or another nonprofit and really look to see if they would be willing to have you be a part of even consulting and working on small projects.
Our kind of rule of thumb in startups and working with other designers is if you can't give it away, it's not very valuable. So that's one of those things that, working with some friends, working with colleagues, partners, and I can, literally build them a website in a day, in a few hours, really, but in like a day, if they would like help getting started with their business idea. If you can't give that away, then maybe that's not something that's valuable in that particular market. And focus on connecting with people who need exactly what you do best, and go give it away. Because that is content that you can start putting in your portfolio, put it on your website, put it on your social media, and those things. Yeah.
So, we've talked about internships already. You guys know about that. But I had 2 internships my senior year of college, and the first one that I had was the best one because it was at a small nonprofit. It was at a theater in my hometown of Poughkeepsie, New York, the 1869 Bardavon Opera House, still there. And there, theaters have no money, right? So each department consisted of one person. So I was the intern for the director of marketing. Guess what I got to do? Everything. It was the best internship ever. So don't turn your nose up at, doing an internship in a really small organization, because you'll be able to get your hands really dirty, and your resume is going to look really good, and your portfolio is going to look really good because of that.
Even if it's not paid, you should do it.
Oh, yeah, no, this is free. Oh, my God. If you get a paid internship, you are so lucky.
Yeah. Well, I have, can witness to that. My nephew went to Cornell. He interned 2 years in a row. Well, yeah, first year with GE, and the second year he did like 3 different companies. And his senior year, he was offered a job with Delta and in Atlanta. So graduating and having a full-time job as a business analyst for Delta and being able to fly around the world now for free. How awesome is that? So that's a testament. And then I have another story that, I just had a kid that told me that he just graduated from college, a science major, and he applied to work at a lab in Houston. And he went for an interview, but he stumbled on some of the questions because he didn't have any experience. But his resume fluffed, to make it seem like he had experience. But then you don't do your homework, like you guys said, go to the website, check out the company, see what it's about, what they're about, what they do, what partners they work for, and being able to talk to your dean or your professor to get advice on what kind of questions would I be asked, or what kind of questions should I have for them. So you have to be prepared. Even if you don't have experience, you have to be prepared. But you want to have some type of experience, whether it's paid or non-paid. You want to volunteer, and do a little bit of if you're in your marketing department, the business department, the management department, there's a business club. Do anything that you could possibly do to gain some little bit of experience, because that experience can take you a long way.
And in addition to that, if you're thinking, oh my goodness, all that sounds great if I had time, I don't have time, right? Because you're close to either graduating or you just physically don't have time because so much other things to do. Talk to your professors or ask your counselor if, hey, can I just shadow you? And if you're able to gain experience through shadowing, that is a key opportunity. Or if there's a super cool company you'd love to work for, and they're like, I'm sorry, we don't have any internships. One, you tell them, I'll do it for free, because you can go talk to your dean and say, hey, if I work with these people, can I get some credit for it? So you work on the back end, be creative. But hey, I'll work for free. I'm a hard worker, I'm a self-starter, and I'm teachable. You tell somebody that, they're like, okay, we'll give this girl a week, we'll see how she does. We'll give this guy a week, we'll see how he does. And then if you really prove yourself, you can stay on long term, they'll actually start giving you meaningful projects. I would also say that if there is something that you're interested in, but you're not sure if you have the experience, start doing it on campus first. So even for Student Government Association, I was president of our SGA, and it was great because I was able to hire an assistant. And if you want to be on student government, but you're like, I don't want to go through the election just to say I got the experience, see if you can work on someone's board or on their council. That would be huge. If you have a fraternity or sorority, I was the vice president of my sorority, and it was great because I had to work with financials. I had to go through the initiation process and understand what that looked like for people, all of this stuff that we just think we're doing to get by. Make sure you're writing it down. So that way when you go to put your resume together, it's not that you don't have experience, it's that you just haven't had time to organize it. So everywhere you can, find it. If you're the best friend that everybody goes to get advice, and they're like, hey, can you look at this for me? You're now a proofreader. Put that on your resume. And you're like, well, it's not an official title. Be creative. Get some support from your dean or from a professor you trust.
A little over a year ago, started this crazy idea of helping scientists with design and marketing, which is not a very easy thing to sell to scientists. I'll tell you that right now. I get an email from an astrophysicist at Ohio State University who is looking for some help with his marketing, with growing his audience, being able to reach more people with his science stories. And he didn't have a very large budget. And I knew that I wanted to help this guy. I wanted to help this scientist spread that science and that story. How could I possibly do this for this little, but it doesn't matter. We're going to, whatever you can afford, let's see what we can do. Your job is to make an impact, period, regardless of how much you're getting paid to start, right? You just need to make sure that this idea will work. And the more we work together, and literally it started with one phone call a week for a half an hour to an hour, just having conversations, sharing ideas, a diversity of ideas. And that's when he told me about this cool thing that he was doing, because his mom is a travel agent, that he and another friend of his, an astronomer, astrophotographer, were going to bring a group of people to Iceland to hunt Aurora Borealis. And they sold out of that tour inside of 3 weeks or something silly like that. And I said, wait a minute, I have an idea. Wait a minute, let me call you back in 24 hours. And I went through this idea of a lean business model canvas. If you're not aware of it, check it out. It's the lean business model canvas, where you can flush out a business idea fairly quickly on all these tenets that are necessary to develop a business. and whether or not it would be successful. And I came back to this guy, Paul, and said, I think we can create a science travel agency because of the why, not the what. And I'm very happy to say that as of last week, Lonely Planet, which is the largest travel media publisher on the planet, just named us, our company that we created called Astro Tours, the best in travel for dark sky tours. Oh my God. And that was a little over a year's worth of just riffing together, sharing some ideas, figuring some stuff out, and coming up with something where the science meets the creative, or whatever that connection was. So opportunity is a moment that creates you, or a moment that you create. So if you have an opportunity to do what you really dig doing, even if it's for free, you have no idea what door or window will open up from it. So,
all right, I've gotten a sign that we can't go on too much longer. Does anybody have a short question?
Or meet us after.
Yeah, that's the next part of this, is to break this up so that you don't have to sit there in those chairs anymore. I've been in those chairs. I know the hours max on those things. But on that one, you'll be all around, right? And the idea for part of this is, after this session, we've had some general ideas. You didn't want to ask that question in public. This is the time to ask. This is the time to pursue those ideas. This is your best resource you're going to get in weeks, okay? For everybody, even you management people over there, okay? Got some other stuff for you. So thank our panelists, please, and we'll go from there. Thank you. Okay. Network, come on, guys, get up here.
Located.
Wherever I am.
There you go.
Yeah. I live in Reston.
Okay, cool.
My whole team works from home.
I have a home office as well. Most of my team is remote, and I have a business address, and I'm there to collect mail every now and then. But I'm very mobile. I just go where I gotta go. So,
Where do you live?
I'm in Alexandria, just south of Old Town.
Oh, okay.
How are you?
Hi. Nice to meet you. No,
My
I
job,
actually...
I created my job. I developed a creative agency for science. So I help scientists communicate their science. Build a greater audience and share really fun stories of discovery. Because fans equal fun, right? Scientists need to stay fun.
Sure, that sounds nice too. But,
So I'm a designer. I'm the principal, I guess, creative director of it. But I've got developers that I apps and websites. I also do hire marketers. Cool. What are you studying here?
and that's just because of our size.
How long have you been here?
So everyone who I bring on
Yeah, it seems like a long road. Right?
A hotel.